Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today. Welcome to filmandtvreview.com. Catch the latest film, TV and streamed show reviews every week. The views and opinions expressed by the authors and those providing comments are theirs alone. They do not reflect the views, opinions or position of filmandtvreview.com or their respective parent companies or affiliates. Filmandtvreview.com makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and is for entertainment purposes only. Episodes may contain adult humor and language. For full terms and conditions, see filmandtvreview.com.
Hello there, and welcome to our summer edition of Film and TV Review. I'm joined by my regular hosts, Richard, Andrew, and James. We will go to the big summer season. We've kicked off a huge titles, superhero titles, Superman, Fantastic Four, comedies with Naked Gun, Happy Gilmore, and of course, big alien invasion theme to this summer with Alien Earth and Strange New Worlds and War of the Worlds. But I think we'll just kick off right from the top with the big superhero DC title from James Gunn, and that's of course the latest reimagining of Superman. I think we all saw this. This was our big first superhero tail end title that we were kind of waiting for. We didn't know what to expect. So to kick off with Superman, which it's Richard. I guess I could just tell the synopsis. It kind of kicks off not with the origin story, but rather kind of like a DC team kind of like version of Superman in our world or in a comic book world, let's say. It's kind of lighter tone than previous efforts of what we've seen in the past. I mean, Man of Steel, or even lighter than the Christopher Reeve era. It's pretty much a bit of a James Gunn kind of like vibe to it, definitely. So what are your first thoughts about it? Richard, what was your take on Superman?
Yeah, so I wasn't one of those guys that you was looking forward much about this new Superman iteration, let's say, because I mean, like many superheroes now, especially the most popular ones, I think we have seen enough of this guy on screen, TV screen and big screen, to be honest. I mean, you mentioned Christopher Reeve. You have obviously most recent one is Henry Cavill in the Snyderverse. Let's put it this way. I grew up loving Smallville with Tom Welling, and that's only to name a few because obviously I'm pretty sure that there are other actually iterations. So I'm guessing that we kind of covered maybe this superhero story already. So I wasn't sure what more could we expect from a Superman movie. The good thing about this one, I'll start with this, is that it's not an origin story. Fair enough. But I'm guessing that everyone in the world, even someone who doesn't know anything about comics, know the origin story of Superman, Batman, and the most Spider-Man or whatever. James Gunn has tried for sure to make it more that's the problem for me. But I'm guessing that was the goal, to make it more human, to make it more realistic, like, in a way, Superman, more down to earth. And by saying that, I understand at least he had the goal, he had the plan, and I have to respect it. But I just don't like the idea. That was my problem. And I'm guessing that maybe the reason why it's a very divisive movie when you look at what we've been hearing. It is, in a way, just an adventure, another adventure of Superman fighting Lex Luthor, his arch nemesis. So there is, for me, not much new under the sun in that part. Again, except the fact that Superman is extremely weak in this movie for some reason, and he's saved 1,000 times by his dog. And I was thinking, why are people so happy about this idea? I wasn't. But again, I'm guessing it's interesting. I think it's what you want from a superhero movie, especially from one of the most powerful being in DC or Marvel or all superheroes, actually. Superman for me is supposed to be like the example to follow for human beings. He's the perfect being, and as strong and as honorable, etc. And in that case, that's why I liked very much the Christopher Reeve version and also the Henry Cavill version. I think Man of Steel is actually a very underrated movie in for that reason. Here, yeah, I wasn't inspired at all by this guy. I got nothing against the actor, but the character he plays. And I think there is not one scene that he was amazing to me, Superman, and even Lex Luthor. Again, it's sad because I kind of like Nicholas Hoult, who plays Lex Luthor usually, but it's sad because obviously you compare when you have so many versions, you compare with other versions of the same character in other media. I think he was not a better version, but a worse version. I always say for me that Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville TV show is definitely the best one ever. Smallville has 1,000 things wrong about Smallville show, but the villain was so great. He was perfect in this role. And I'm going to finish on that note. Actually, James Gunn is very good friend with Michael Rosenbaum, and I thought actually that I was thinking, why didn't he ask Michael Rosenbaum to be playing this thing? It would make sense. And actually, he asked him. For what I understand, I listened to the podcast of Michael Rosenbaum. He was asked actually to return, but after consideration, that was originally when they started talking, when James Gunn was part of the podcast years ago. But then James Gunn realized actually that Michael Rosenbaum was actually too old, because he wanted something actually new, something fresh. So I don't know if Michael Rosenbaum is lying about this, but at least it would make sense in my opinion. Anyway, that's my point.
James, just quick thoughts on that. You did catch this?
I did, and I was kind of like Richard, not really particularly looking forward to this. I thought the trailers didn't look good, to be honest. I couldn't get past the wig that I thought looked ridiculous. And I'd say, actually, I haven't watched all of Smallville, so I really only know the two big screen versions, really, of the original Superman. But I really like this, and I wasn't expecting to. I really loved the Suicide Squad film that James Gunn did, and I almost felt like that's maybe as far as you could go with the comedy. But actually, this puts a lot more heart into it. And I really like the tone. I thought it was a little bit like Fifth Element or something. Like it's definitely set now. Everybody's got screens, but all the styles are very retro. There's like this 70s vibe going on in everybody's clothes. People have got big flared trousers and big glasses and stuff. And I really like that. I always found with Batman versus Superman, and I really love Man of Steel. I think it's fantastic. Batman versus Superman, he's not written well, and he comes across a bit sappy. It's a bit like Superman 4 all over again. And then you get both versions of Justice League, where he's so powerful that he makes the rest of the Justice League redundant. It's like they suck until Superman turns up and sorts it all out for them. So why are we even watching an ensemble movie? Here, there is the Justice Gang. And where he becomes relevant is he's the kind of heart, really. So they're kind of very gung-ho, but he's the one who cares. And there's some brilliant interactions, I think, with him and Lois. Again, I was not familiar with the actress, and I was like, I don't know if I care about these this couple, but I think what they do with them is really good, that it's not an origin story. So they play with this at the start, that you think she doesn't know his identity, and then it turns out they're already living together. So yeah, I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed the film. I thought it had the right amount of humor, but it kept itself sort of grounded in a sense. And I'm really looking forward to the Supergirl film, because it's one of the best cameos at the end, I think, that I've seen. It sort of really plays well with the audience. It's a very funny announcement of the Supergirl character. I really like Crypto the dog as well. I'm sorry, but I did. And I thought the ending as well, the first time I was sort of digging the song, and I was like, oh, that was surprisingly good. And when I rewatched it, it really got me in the feels, the end of the film. And I won't ruin what the end of the film is, but there's an unexpected A-list cameo very early on, and that story about, because it was originally called Superman Legacy, wasn't it? That was the working title. And the idea that he's been sent to Earth and he's got this message from his parents, which is telling him to do good. That sort of the story behind that becomes sort of the thing that drives the drama forward. I thought Nicholas Hoult was really good in this as well. I thought he played it just about right, that you could kind of see where he was coming from, in a sense, because sometimes these villainous characters are just, we want to take over the world, and it doesn't really make sense. And apparently he's the top paid star, because nobody else is sort of like a real big hitter in the cast. But I thought it was, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay. Andrew, what are your thoughts? It's a bit like Marmite, this kind of movie has been, as even in this podcast. But yeah, Andrew, what's your take on it? I mean, did you dig it?
Well, I liked the music. There was trying to think of the song. Which Terrific is taking out Lex's goons.
5 Years Now by Noah and the Whale, which is such an unusual song to use, but it's great, I think.
But that's James Gunn. He likes to do the music.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's been a while, but it's what I remember. It was entertaining. I know there were some kind of mixed reactions when it came out, but I think my main thing is, and I guess Richard pointed out, there's so many different versions of Superman. And I don't know if it's because of this movie or other reasons that they ended the run of Superman and Lois. And I like that series. So, and then you have the various animated versions of the characters. So I like this version, but if I had to pick a favorite version, I probably would go with one of the other, like the TV series or the animated. That being said, I'd be curious to see some of the other characters, maybe something centered around Mr. Terrific and that version, or this version of the character. I know they're supposed to bring back Guy Gardner for the Lantern series. I don't think he's going to be the main one, but they're going to bring in other Green Lanterns, so he's going to be one of them. So, but it was, I mean, entertaining, and I saw it on an IMAX, which is a good way to see it. So that's my thoughts.
Sure, yeah. I think for mine, it's kind of, it does seem a kind of group effort. It did feel like a summer movie, but it's something that you would kind of, not something that would linger with you. It's fun. It's competent done. It is a group effort. I think the characters that really stayed are them, like the Mr. Terrific or even the Guy Gardner characters, which really pop, because I think that's basically James Gunn's forte, really. And I was just catching Creature Commandos actually recently, and just like, wow, this is actually so edgy and nicely written characters, which is just up his alley. And maybe Superman is not the fit for him when the side characters are the more interesting things. He is, yeah, I think he represents the heart, but it is very difficult when you've got a Superman that's all powerful. If he is so all powerful, then you don't need a collaborative effort. And here, I think it's the only way you can play it, where it is a group. He is a bit of a weakened version of it, or he's very vulnerable at least, and it just makes it a bit more interesting movie. Or else it kind of just stops and ends as soon as he appears on the screen, which I guess did happen in the Justice League. So it's a tricky boat to navigate, really. It's fine. I didn't love it. It's just it was fine, but it wasn't. I don't know. It's difficult to mine further material, depths or stories in this too, because I think some of the TV series recently have been pretty good, actually. I mean, they're
Yeah.
modeling the family life and all that, and Lois and um,
Well,
Clark. Oh, sorry,
Superman and Lois
Superman
and
and Lois.
Lois and Clark
Um,
in the
just
90s.
when you think, oh, do we need this? And you watch it and, oh, this is really nice dynamic and a view from his family life. So, yeah, it was okay. Not the most memorable, but did kick off the summer at least. Anyway, next, I think not maybe a week or 2 weeks afterwards, followed a Marvel's effort into their big guns for as in their superhero movie, and that was the Fantastic Four, kicking off a 1960s retro film of Marvel's first family, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, and Thing and Human Torch. We're talking real origin story here, so it's almost feel like a bit of a reboot here. But it's Marvel's first family faces their own cosmic threat, kind of Galactus, and we could basically follow that. Starring what Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby
Mm.
take the lead here. How did this compare to Superman, which did just come out? DC's efforts did come out quite relatively. Is it, quite yeah, relatively soon before this. So, Richard, how did you gauge this compared to Superman? Did you prefer this one?
Well, I enjoyed it more than Superman, but that doesn't mean much. I just want to say like that. Not because I enjoyed it more than Superman, but I'm gonna call it like a perfect movie by far. Not, it's not a perfect movie. Let's face it, Marvel hasn't, what's the expression, set the bar very high in regards to movies in recent years. Let's face it. So if you I cannot compare really with Superman because the place where Superman is in the world of DC Warner is a bit different from where the place is Fantastic Four in the world of Kevin Feige, Marvel, Disney stuff. What I mean is that although when you think about it, both movies are very important for the studios, so important. Technically, Superman is supposed to launch, sorry, the new DCEU, whatever the name is now, and Fantastic Four, on other hand, after so many either box office meh or box office failures, it's kind of trying to save what can be saved before the big two Avengers movies coming in the next couple of years, but they're going to spend $1 billion on this. So if they are two important milestone in a way, but I think that perhaps the pressure was even more, in my opinion, on the shoulders of Fantastic Four team, crew, and cast. And the results at the box office are just okay, but nothing great again. And that's actually the third Marvel movie this year that is not killing it at the box office. So that was Marvel. I was started to ask myself questions about the next two Avengers, by the way. Now, quality-wise, I thought actually that it was a decent movie. Seriously, there were some scenes that were really, really great. What was lacking in Superman for me was the action part. In Fantastic Four, surprisingly for me again, the action part was there. Especially there were two extraordinary scenes. Oh, especially one. There was one extraordinary scene in Fantastic Four in space. Definitely call back to Interstellar, but it lasts like 10, 15 minutes, whatever. It's really well done, really well directed, really well acted, etc. Very well done on the big screen. And that was a good moment for me in the movie theater. Something, again, I was lacking with Superman. To sum up, like Superman was another adventure against Lex Luthor. Here is another adventure of Fantastic Four main enemy, which is usually Galactus or Silver Surfer. Here, it's not really Silver Surfer. I think it's the female version. I don't know the name of it, actually, of the character. I don't know if it's Silver someone. But anyway, let's call her the female Silver Surfer for now. Again, I thought actually the whole cast did a good job with what they were given. Honestly, I thought Galactus was really well done. That was the biggest concern because you are thinking about a godlike villain, and they did a good job with it. A bit to end up what I was to sum it up. What you were saying a few minutes ago, Jason, I can say it for Fantastic Four. It was a good summer movie. For me, anyway, it was just a good summer movie, and that's not much more I can ask from Marvel nowadays. It's a bit sad, but it's true. And in regards to setting up the two Avengers movie coming, it failed. But that's a personal opinion.
Yeah. I think it was a good. I think the box office is exactly where we are at with, and it, as in, I think Superman's aiming to be 500 million to 600 million, and Fantastic Four, although as good a film, maybe a bit better in some places, not made as much, but that's in comparison to Superman, and I think it's now we can lower our expectations with, or also the studios can. We've kind of been here in this place, as in where we are with, we'll call it fatigue, but let's say we've done everything in this genre as much as we can in recent years. I know it's been about 10 years, but it's we're kind of like really ready for new things. And I think, well, we'll go into weapons and all that and the smaller budget stuff, which really get people excited compared to these big superhero genre ones. We're kind of like the average person has, like, we did that story. We were able to keep up with it in the first few years, and you ended with Endgame, and what we're done. Thank you very much. But I hope, like, Hollywood for these numbers. But they said they're happy, but considering the cost, I think they've got to really change a bit their business model with this. Make much cheaper versions of film, but do story. I think it's bleeding into the whole kind of TV movie or kind of Disney movie kind of thing, and we can, if maybe that's its natural home for it now. But yeah, I don't. Maybe, yeah, next year or the year after that, when you've got Doomsday, it's like it's more of a nostalgia where you'll see some old cast members, and that's what brings people out. But that's all it is, really. Now, I think it's excitement. The other two, if you did see it, any thoughts about Fantastic Four? Andrew.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that regarding the box office, I think the issue is if you look at the numbers overall, it's maybe okayish at this point. I don't know about that, but is that it's extremely front loaded. So what that means is that there was a big initial rush factor, I guess Thursday night and Friday, maybe into Saturday when it opened. And then kind of after that, it just kind of went
Big drop off 60%. Yeah.
And that seemed kind of strange because it's not something where, there was a negative reaction or a cinema score or bad reviews. It was just, people, the fans came out, they rushed out, they loved it, but there's not general word of mouth among the larger cinema going audience. It's just like, there's the fans, they want to see it, they'll go and see it, they'll rush out and see it, and everyone else is just kind of like, yeah, we'll see something else.
Yeah.
It's not like it was before, like you were saying. So
yeah, it's exactly where the general audience is now. And I'm like that now. I mean, even though I do love these whole superhero stuff, but I've kind of like, we're done with this era. We've realized the versions that we've done with current cinema, and then we're fine with that. We'll be done, been there, done that. James, did you see it, or any thoughts?
Yeah, to be honest, it was just nice to see Pedro Pascal in something because he doesn't get a lot of work.
He was in it. Yes,
he was in it. I mean, so there's two other versions, aren't there? And I thought they did. I actually think Reed Richards, they did pretty well because it's one of those characters that works well in comics, but they tackle it in the 2000s films as being very comedic. And then in the Josh Trank version that the studio interfered with, they were kind of going down a body horror thing, and then they didn't do that. And I was like, I don't know if that character works in live action. But here, they don't really focus, although they on their the powers. Actually, you just sort of see him when he's jumping that he stretches a bit. They don't really make too big a deal out of that, and I think that's wise. I thought him and Vanessa Kirby particularly were really good in it, as was almost called him Chris Finch there, but the actor who plays Chris Finch from The Office as Galactus, I think he's a good villain. I mean, I didn't enjoy it as much as Superman. I thought it was pretty forgettable. But actually, the early part, set in the 60s, I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. I think the first third is really good where it sticks to that. And it doesn't do obvious things like drop in every single 60s tune that you know, because those things are kind of very cliched now. It just kind of tells its story, very short running time. It does do a thing towards the end where you think it's going to kill a character, and then the character doesn't die, and it's like it would have been more interesting if they'd actually killed that character, like you know, because we're so used to this now of they don't die. And I did find the Johnny Storm character. I know he's meant to be annoying, but I found him almost too annoying, to be honest. Where he's just constantly talking about wanting to bang the Silver Surfer. It started to really get on my nerves a bit. But yeah, it is the best of the recent Marvel films, but again, that isn't saying much.
Yeah. It was a short running time type, nice visuals at the beginning. But yeah,
I mean, the rumor is now apparently that Pedro Pascal isn't going to be, and I don't know, obviously, but this is the rumor that I'm hearing, that his role has been cut back from Avengers Doomsday. But I think it sounds like Kevin Feige is getting much more hands-on, and they're probably going to focus it on the actors that have done really well in the box office and the legacy characters. And to touch on what I think you were talking about, Jason, the rumor is when we get into the next phase and we have the reboot of the X-Men, it's going to be lesser known actors, because a lot of the money goes on these expensive actors with this. And you're right, we're getting to this point where they can't keep losing this money over and over again on these things. That you know, so they have to bring the cost of it down, because that's where we're kind of at. I'm sure Avengers might do $1 billion, but everything else is kind of doing $500 million if it's doing okay. Maybe not even that. That's where we're at now. We're not in the end game era anymore.
No. Right.
I don't know, but if Kevin Feige wants to, let's say, remove some screen time from Pedro Pascal in the next couple of Avengers movies, it's going to be a problem, because, well, I'm going to be a minor nerd, but technically Reed Richards should be actually central role in the two Avengers movie. So it's possible. I'm pretty sure that you're right, but it proves actually again my point that they don't know what they're doing. They're still writing this thing.
They're still writing it 100%. And apparently, so Ryan Reynolds has tweeted a picture of the Avengers logo and he's written over the A in Deadpool writing. So the rumor was like he's not going to be in this, but seeing as that's the only one that's made $1 billion apart from Spider-Man No Way Home in the last few years, it would kind of be crazy not to have him in, right? But
it's a kind of a bit of a dangerous territory when they start chasing the numbers and pivot so quickly, when they really don't have any confidence in their own vision anymore because they're chasing those numbers. So,
and let's not forget that Thor Love and Thunder was a disappointment, and that is an original Avenger. So the whole thing when they just sort of go, oh well, let's just, you know, we get all the old gang back together. That didn't work in Thor Love and Thunder's case. So, you know, we will see. But I think the interesting thing is going to be, if Doomsday doesn't work, what do they do about Secret Wars? Like, you know, they've announced these two films very close together. And if the first one doesn't hit, it might affect the second one. And if it affects it really badly, if it's got a really big budget, that could have really sort of catastrophic effects. And I agree with Richard. I think there was more riding on Fantastic Four really than there was on Superman.
I think they've had to pivot for this because they were looking at this as the entry point into Doomsday, basically, because it was their main villain, Doctor Doom, and then it was their famous foe. So yeah, I'm sure they're trying to switch the perspective to whose shoulders do we put this on? It's interesting times for Marvel, and I think they've got to change their little model casting, whatever it is, if they want to survive in some form, but who knows. Right, next, from the big budget to smaller but well, I think a lot of buzz definitely about this next film, which is Weapons. I think original director, I think, made some noise with the movie Barbarian, which I saw maybe a few days ago. That's Zach Krieger who wrote and directed this. So very much his vision and his style. Very good word of mouth from this. I think James, Richard, and Andrew, you all three saw this. I heard very good things. So was the kickoff with their well, Richard, do you want with weapons? Again, I'm guessing a dark territory. It's a thriller, isn't it, or rather a
Horror.
mystery as
In
such.
France, it was released as a horror thriller.
Mm,
Yeah. So it's definitely not usually what I like, as you guys
sure.
know. Definitely horror is, but it's just because, as you said, the buzz was pretty big on the online. Everybody was talking about it. It was only released. So we are 14th of August as we record this. It was released on the 6th of August in France,
Yeah, not
only
long.
last week.
Yeah.
And on the space on one weekend, everybody was talking about it. The numbers of posters in French is ébanoui, so stupid translation, by the way. Of weapons, they like I don't know, multiply by 10 the number of posters in the metros, etc. I was thinking, what's going on? And I don't know what it was about, to be honest. I knew it was a horror movie because it said by the producers of Conjuring. Okay, I'm not gonna watch this. That was my first reaction. Then because everybody was talking about it, I started to look into it, and then I saw actually that it has a nice cast at least. Josh Brolin, but also the girl that I mentioned years ago about Ozark, who is also, by the way, in the Fantastic Four, Julia Garner. Well, you don't recognize her in Fantastic Four, but still, she was definitely the second best cast member of Ozark after Laura Linney. But yeah, she was amazing. So I said, okay. And I actually checked online reviews without checking the plot. I was checking how gory and how much blood there would be in this movie before going to the movie theater. And people kind of say actually that it was okay. You can actually, it's kind of more of a Scream-like movie where you actually get scared more than blood. Maybe in the last 50 minutes there's a lot of blood, but that's all. So that was all my thoughts. I didn't talk about the plot yet because I don't want much to talk about it. Maybe just one sentence.
Sure.
It's just a story of one night at 2:17 a.m. 99.9% of the kids in one elementary school classroom disappear. But one is, for some reason, one didn't disappear, but all of them disappeared except of one. And it's a small community in the US where this is happening. And at first, everyone points the finger at the teacher, by Jay Gardner, and Josh Brolin plays one of the dads. And I don't think I should say more, to be honest, in regards to the plot, because it's a lot of, as it's very much of a mystery, whodunit stuff, and that's maybe the most interesting part.
James, did it meet expectation better than the first one? I guess. Well, let's say Barbarian.
Well, I mean, obviously it's all subjective, and I think generally, I mean, they're really well received films, and I think that Weapons seems to have the edge. For me, I really loved Barbarian. It's one of the sort of horrors that really stuck with me because very difficult to talk about without ruining like this film. But it really got under my skin. I found it really creepy and really intense. I thought this was really good as well. I thought it was a little bit derivative of other works. So actually, I sat there thinking this must be adapted from a Stephen King book, and it's not. That's not a bad thing, by the way. Listening to Richard's description of the plot, this is actually why the film one of the reasons why the film works is you can just explain it in one sentence, and that's the mystery, and you want to know what happens, right? There are so many films where we're going, what's the plot? And you're trying to explain why anyone should care about that thing, we'll get to War of the Worlds later. But like with this, you've got this really arresting first thing, like what's happened to the kids? Why have all the kids gone? It's got this structure which really reminded me of sort of the end of Jackie Brown or early Tarantino or Memento, where you'll follow characters and you get a chapter title which is just about that character, and often it will end, that chapter will end somewhere, and then you'll get an earlier part of the story which then ties into that story, so that where the next one ends is where the last one started, things like that. That's used really effectively. In terms of the gore, Richard, well done for staying through it, because there's not much gore, it's not frequent, but when it is gory, boy is it gory. And it sort of lulls you in. There are certain horrors that really desensitize you, and with this you kind of forget that you know that it's going to be a horror you're watching. It just feels like a mystery in some ways. Josh Brolin's really good, Jennifer Garner's really good in it. There's actually a real lack of score in it as well, so, and that really works. You know, so many films, and actually with horrors like The Exorcist, or we talk about Jaws and Halloween, the music actually does a lot of work in those films to make it even creepier. But the absence of a score through so much of this really, really works to sort of heighten some of the intensity of those scenes. It's unexpectedly funny towards the end as well, and not in a bad way. Like sometimes when people are laughing in a horror, it kind of undercuts the tension. But I think once things start amping up, there's a couple of scenes that are really good in there. So I've only seen it once, but I really want to go and see it again. And it's doing really good numbers. And I think you're right. This might be what we start to see now. In the 80s, we had all these big blockbusters. And then that was followed by the 90s, where you had like Tarantino and people like that coming out making lower budget stuff. And they were given the budgets to do it. And this is doing, really well for an original movie. So, Weapons. Really liked it.
Funny, Andrew, did it live up to expectation, or did you prefer this over Barbarian?
I think in some ways I kind of prefer it over Barbarian, but that's just a matter of degrees, because there's just a lot more going on here. Maybe some people prefer Barbarian because of simplicity. Here there's more of like a fleshed out community of, what's going on and how's what's happening affecting the community at large, rather than, here's this bad thing and that's that, and then you have the community at large, and then you have, how's that affecting people and tension within the community. So there's kind of I would say a drama aspect to it. Also some scenes of comedy and dark comedy, I guess, especially, well, I'm not going to say, but there's some scenes of drama. People have their personal issues. It happens. It's any horror, but as you're saying, the rest of you were saying earlier in the film, you're watching it and you're thinking this is almost like a drama about something that's happened, and how are people in the community pushing on, and then you find out a little something and a little something more, and then that gets more into the thriller and then the horror aspect. So it's kind of like a mix of different genres. I think it's interesting too, because Zach Kreger, I guess, was known for comedy. The Whitest Kids You Know, I guess it was a series. So now people know him for horror, this and Barbarian. And then he's also going to be directing a version of Resident Evil. So I don't know how that's going to work. But yeah, so a little tidbit, because you were talking about Marvel. Benedict Wong is also in this, so you have another Marvel MCU actor in it. And then I don't know if it's not really a spoiler, it's just a little observation, but not Marvel related, but also Zach Kreger's, I think his real life wife also has an appearance in the film, Sarah Paxton. I think she was also kind of in Barbarian, so but that's I guess his wife in real life. I liked it. A lot of world building or community building before you really get into what's going on, and it's a little mix of genres. And I think that's maybe why it's resonating. It's not just for the horror fans, or not just for like a core group. It's a lot of different things, and it kind of really draws people in and gets them really vested in the characters and the story. So,
Right. Okay. Next, change of tone. comedy sequel to reimagined Disney comedy, Freaky Out Friday. That was so decades after the first body swap. That was with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan as a mother-daughter swapping bodies for a Friday. Um, Accidentally trigger another supernatural switch, this time involving Anna's daughter and stepdaughter, and navigating the chaos that ensues. Andrew, you did see this. Um, it did well, the original. Let's say, obviously the original was a remake of the original Disney
All
one,
right.
but it was quite a popular. It did quite well. And how about this sequel? Does it hit the buttons again? Wasn't really expecting a sequel to it, but here we are. What did you
Yeah,
think, Andrew?
nostalgia for the early 2000s, late 90s. So it's kind of fun now to do legacy things. To that, you had some other examples. Maybe we'll get to them or not. And then also earlier this year, Disney did a live action remake of Lilo and Stitch,
Yeah.
another live action remake, but also the whole trend of popularity of things from the early 2000s or that decade. So I guess this kind of fits into that. There's so many different versions of this story just from this one franchise and many different versions. And it's all started with a novel way back in the early 1970s. Having said all that, this version of the sequel to the 2003 film, brings back a number of characters actually, and you see some of that in the trailer or not. I don't know how much you pay attention to the trailers, but yeah, it brings back quite a bit of people from the earlier film, at least those that are still alive. So you have Anna, who's played by Lindsay Lohan, and her mother Tess, who's played by Jamie Lee Curtis. And in this new film, Anna is a single mom, a single mother. They don't really mention who the father is. That's not really, but she's a single mother to a teenage girl, and she's kind of co-parenting, if that's the right word, with her with Tess, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, who's I guess the grandmother to this teenage girl. So what happens in the film is that there's an altercation at school with Anna's daughter and this other girl, and Anna meets the girl's father, and it's meet cute, so things happen, yada yada yada, and they basically have another wedding, just like in the 2003 film. You had the wedding, upcoming nuptials for Tess, that character. Here you have for Anna and this other girl's father, who's played by Manny Jacinto from The Good Place and The Acolyte. He's Canadian in real life, but here he's playing a British character, and the girl playing his daughter is American, but again playing British. So I'm not going to judge on that. But so basically, there's a whole thing about misunderstandings and where the families are going to live. Do they move to the UK? Do they stay in the LA area? And misunderstandings, and one thing leads to another, and then you have another body swap. And I guess the whole body swap in this one was a little confusing for me because it's not just two people, it's four people. So I was very confused at that, and I was trying to figure out who's who and what's what, and so it was a little harder for me. Eventually I figured it out, and I'm going to kind of do you guys a solid that basically the body swap is this, that it's the two legacy characters swap places with the two new characters. So if you think of it that way, so you basically have the mother and daughter in film, Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, those two characters swapping with the new characters. So that's basically, you have Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis being teenage girls, and the teenage girls in the film being the two legacy characters on the inside. So it's that basically that.
Does
So
it
it's
work? Does it?
yeah, yeah. It's a lot to take in, and there's a lot of fan servicey stuff for people from the fans of the 2003 film. Basically, cameos and characters returning, and then just little nods to the earlier film. Um, I mean, I wouldn't say the film was that great for me personally. I know some people like it, and I just felt it was playing a little too much on the fan service. I like it when it's also more simplistic body swap. Here it's 4 people. I just did you guys a favor by making it more simple, but I found myself being very confused. Okay, who's who and what's what, and why are they talking about this? And then I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I get what's going on.
Okay.
I mean, they look like they had fun doing it. The 2 legacy performers look like they had fun doing it. Jamie Lee Curtis in particular looks like she really has fun just being a inner teenage girl on the inside, even though she's a bit older now. That's just who she is. And hey, great for her. And it's nice to see Lindsay Lohan turning herself around. For a while, she obviously had a lot of issues. So now she's turning her life around in real life. So, but I'll say the film wasn't that great for me. But, I know for some people, I guess they're fans of the 2003 film. It's very fan servicey, I guess. So there's definitely a lot of nods to that. So,
Right. Okay. Next, there's 2 kind of animated titles that came out that you saw, Andrew. Bad Guys 2, which I didn't even know about Bad Guys 1, but anyway, it's an animated crime caper, isn't it? I think you've got some like big talent voices behind it, like Sam Rockwell, Zazie Beetz. So this is I think you saw some of the publicity of him in the car, but it's what former criminals on a high becoming good guys and this kind of Jade.
yeah, that's
Is it good?
basically
Kids film, I'm guessing. Yeah.
yeah, it's a DreamWorks animation,
Hmm.
and it's another franchise from that studio. So basically, just to recap what happens, I mean, I guess it follows the events of the previous film. Um, just to kind of give you a general idea, is that exists in a reality where anthropomorphic animals and humans coexist. And what happens in this franchise is in the first film, well, technically both, but is that you have animals that have certain stereotypes, like the dangerous animals, and they're kind of, yeah, they're not given much of a shot to be more than that, for people to think of anything other than just scary or dangerous, so they become criminals. And that's what happens in the first film, but then they kind of become good. And that's what this film picks up from that plot point. So the animals you have, one is a wolf, one is a shark, one is a piranha, one is a snake, and one is a tarantula. And the tarantula, which is a play on words because she's also really good at hacking into things, IT, that kind of thing. She has the nickname Webs. Get it? So basically, they're trying to turn their lives around, go from being the negative animal stereotypes with those characters and those animals to kind of become productive members of society. And I think that's where the film has its strongest part is the idea of turning a life around. People think of you a certain way. Your cons. Are you going to hurt me? Are you going to do something bad? And you're generally trying to turn your life around. You want to do things that are positive, and people don't give you much of a chance. And what happens in this film is they hear about some kind of robberies that are taking place, and they see a chance that maybe we can solve these robberies that they're not attached to. They used to be criminals that would do heists. So they kind of use this as their chance to say, hey, we used to be criminals, we understand the criminal mind. Maybe we can use this as an opportunity to catch this other criminal that's committing these crimes, find out what's going on, help the police chief of police who's been having it out for us. Maybe we can get in good in society. And I'll just say things take a turn and things don't go quite as planned. And they become involved with this new group of criminals. And they're trying to go good. But how do they do that and deal with these new group? Yeah, it's a lot of things going on. And the other thing is that there's the governor of the state that they're in. I guess it's supposed to be a fictional version of California. Is this anthropomorphic fox voiced by Zazie Betts? I think that's her name. Yeah. So there's something going on with her and that character. So yeah, I mean, I like the film overall. I say I prefer the first film, but this film has its moments, and I like the idea of people that are generally trying to turn their lives around, but aren't really given much of a chance because of their past or stereotypes. Which is also what the first film touched on a little bit, but just the idea of turning your life around and saying hey, I generally want to do good. And people saying I don't know if I want to give you a shot. I don't trust you yet. And so that's kind of taking like a real life context, real life issues, and putting it there. So I thought this was all right. I still prefer the first film, but yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, another animated series, I think, it's an anthology series exploring Wakanda's history. It's the Eyes of Wakanda TV series, right, on Disney, I'm guessing. So,
Remake, yeah.
I kind of like. I mean, after the second film, it was kind of like a bit adrift at sea. But I'm guessing that does this add a lot to the backlog? Is it interesting as a series or works better with much of the lore here? Because I assuming you have a different title character of Black Panther himself because obviously passing of the actor. But what's is it intriguing enough to explore?
Yeah, I was going to say a couple things. One is that it's kind of an anthology, 4
Mm.
episodes, and each one is set in a different time period. And it's kind of, because I just said different time period, it's basically a prequel to the whole Black Panther film franchise.
Sure.
So it's, without giving too much away, it's set hundreds or in some cases thousands of years before any events that we see in the films. It follows this group whose mission is to retrieve technology that's escaped Wakanda's borders. And because I guess they feel that if that technology gets in the wrong hands, it could be bad for the rest of the world. And you see Wakanda is very advanced versus the rest of the world. And so it runs basically from a time period that starts I guess in ancient times, you see like ancient Crete, and then throughout that period of history, up through medieval times and up until, I guess, the late 19th century. And I would say this is a good series. Just the idea of the world building with Wakanda and their history, and getting to see new characters and getting to see more of that world and more of that nation. So yeah, no, I'd like to see more of, maybe not these characters specifically because they're specific on specific missions, but maybe more of this organization that they work for, maybe more of what's going on in Wakanda. So yeah, no, I generally like the series.
Oh, thanks. Right, next. In case you were missing out on your Pedro Pascal fix, Eddington features a kind of a drama, which I saw the trailer for, looked quite intriguing. So it's set in like New Mexico. I think seems
Yeah,
to be a loggerheads between a sheriff in a small town. During the COVID pandemic, I think there's some sort of mandate, and it's in that kind of satirical thriller territory. The sheriff is So Joaquin Phoenix is Joaquin
Oh,
Phoenix,
Joaquin Phoenix, yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix, and Pedro Pascal starring in this. Looked quite intriguing actually. So I'm not sure we got released here yet, but
No, it,
Eddington, yeah. You saw this, Andrew. Where did you see it? Is it on in theaters in the States or was it
sort of. It's A24, so it didn't get like a
yeah.
wide release. It's not something where it translates to big box office generally. I mean, sometimes it will, but not. In this case, I think there was a lot of attention because of the director, Ari Aster, who directed. I mean, he's mostly known for directing horror, but this isn't horror exactly. It's like a mix of genres. It's kind of a mix of drama, political satire, social commentary, and then maybe thriller later in the film. I think the trailers may be a little bit misleading intentionally. I say that because something happens in the film late in the film that kind of changes things. So, I mean, when you see it, you'll figure it out. But I'll just say the setup is a big part of the film, at least certainly in the earlier parts of the film, is the political divide in the US, specifically in regards to the pandemic. And I'm trying to think if they mentioned political party names, but there was basically a political divide, as I said, in the US regards to the pandemic, with one political party saying we're going to follow the science and restrictions, try to keep the disease from spreading, from COVID. And the other political party saying, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Nope. And that's a big part of what happens in the film and kind of kicks off the story. Again, I don't think they mention political parties, but it's pretty clear who's with which political party. And for those who don't know, this takes place in New Mexico. In real life, that's a more Democrat-leaning state. So that's kind of the context that you see it in terms of how they're doing and how they're responding to the pandemic, in terms of face covering and social distancing. And you basically have Joaquin Phoenix's character, who's the local sheriff, who's like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I want to do my own thing. And I'm going to run for mayor. I'm going to run against the incumbent mayor, who's played by Pedro Pascal. And so that kind of kicks off the plot. And I think with the director is that he kind of, even though it seems that way, he actually goes after both sides of the political argument. So it's not just that he's criticizing one side. He's kind of going after both sides. That's something that someone can do. And that's what he does. And I thought that was fine that he did that. They also bring up the Black Lives Matter movement, which was a big thing that was going on at that time. And that becomes like a big plot point. So yeah, I don't know if that's something that people will understand. And it's not even something in the US. It's people in the US are kind of, they want to tune it out, or they're very, dicey. So, but yeah, I thought the film was all right. Generally providing a social commentary. Just a little tidbit. There's other characters in the story. There's the wife of Joaquin Phoenix's character, played by Emma Stone, and then his mother-in-law, who's very big on conspiracy theories, and same actress who played Penguin's mother in the Penguin series. So plays Emma Stone's mother in this film. As I said, I thought the film was all right. I mean, there generally are some things that happen in the film that kind of like, and trying to follow it, but I thought it was generally all right. I think the thing is trying to compare it to the director's other films, and I guess his previous film, which also had Joaquin Phoenix in it, was Beau is Afraid, and that was just really out there, and this is a lot more grounded. Some weird stuff happens kind of late in the film, but still generally grounded. It's not like it's just Beau is Afraid is just so out there that I guess by comparison, this maybe why I appreciated this film as much as I did is I guess it was a lot better than Beau is Afraid. A lot more like, okay, I get what's going on here. I understand what's going on here. It's not something where it's just like way, way out there. So yeah, I mean, it's something to look out for if it gets released in respective countries. But again, I don't know if it's something that people will understand in terms of the political divide in the U.S. regarding the pandemic. that's something people will understand or not. Something to keep in mind.
Sure. Okay. Aye, and next we've got reimagining of a classic comedy movies with Leslie Nielsen back in the day, and Police Squad the series, and the very successful Naked Gun franchise a few decades back. We return to this with Liam Nielsen now in the starring role, I think, is the son of Mr. Drevin, The Naked Gun, which him and Pamela Anderson co-star in this, I guess, satire, which much hilarity ensues, question mark. James, you delved into the case of Police Squad. How was this reimagining? Bit of trepidation, but some of the reaction to the trailers were more or less quite welcoming. How did you find The Naked Gun?
Yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I mean, it's one of those things that if you were aware of it in the late 80s, early 90s, you'll know what it is, but there's a whole generation now who won't. And it's very much slapstick. It's very much gags over characterization or plot. In fact, that's there really just as a backdrop to the jokes. And the kind of thing that you're trying to do, I think, in these films is just have as many jokes as possible, visual or verbal. And to that end, it does the job. The thing with these sort of films, though, if it's not your sense of humor, you're just not going to like any of it. And if it is, you're going to love it. So really, I do find it's sort of like reviewing stand-up comedy. You either laugh or you don't. This was right up my street, and I've seen it a couple of times for reasons that I'll get into. But it is my sense of humor, and I can tell when I'm in the cinema, most of the people that are there, it's their sense of humor as well. And it's great to be in an audience with people laughing at this en masse. It's good to revisit a comedy at the cinema because it's interesting for me anyway to see what jokes always land. So there are certain jokes that always work, which I'm not going to ruin any of the jokes because that's, I think those are the spoilers for comedies is people telling the jokes badly rather than the plot, which the plot is basically somebody's murdered Pamela Anderson's brother and Frank Drebin Jr. is going to get the bad guys. In the meantime, there is a guy who is an evil billionaire. I think that's his official title, evil billionaire. And he's basically got a device which can make people really, really angry. So he's found this device similar to a mobile phone that it's meant to calm people down, but you can flick a switch and it can make them very, very aggressive. And he's kind of using that to try and destroy society, and then he's going to go and live on his billionaire's paradise somewhere, But again, that's just the sort of setup to put lots of jokes, lots of slapstick in, basically. And it is really fun going to rewatch these films. I went to rewatch it as well because on the cast it says Priscilla Presley's in it, and I thought it was like, oh, I didn't see that. I missed it completely. So I went to watch it again. And I completely missed it again. And I had to Google where she was. I was like, of course she's in that bit, but like it's so quick that you don't see it. Mm-hmm. But if gags and things aren't for you, I know on the chat people will sort of say like, and if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. I think Richard, you said like maybe these jokes belong in the 80s and 90s. But potentially, yeah. I think also there is a thing that stand-up comics talk about, like long form and short form, right? And so long form is basically where there's a through line, there's lots of anecdotes. And that's great. That is great. But there are comedians that are very big in the UK, like Milton Jones, like Tim Vine, and it's short form. And it's very difficult to write because you basically, rather than having a whole routine, you've got a gag every like 5 seconds. And this is when this is working the best, it's kind of like a setup punchline all the way through. And if you find that annoying, you'll just find it annoying. If that's your cup of tea, you'll really like it. I really like that the start of this is like a sort of visually like riffing on The Dark Knight. Because obviously these things that they're not that the original police squad were sending up like detective shows, they don't really exist anymore. So it's sort of sending up more the sort of modern crime thing. There's a sequence with a body cam and stuff like that in it. But yeah, I think as well, it's probably the fact that they got Liam Neeson to do it, who's so well known for the Taken movies, that it's kind of funny seeing himself send himself up. And he's done that with Ricky Gervais and things like that. And it's got a runtime of 82 minutes, I think, like the other three. So it doesn't outstay its welcome. It's got lots of in-jokes. And yeah, it was fun.
You made a good point about the fact that there is a whole generation of young people who never heard of this kind of movie, perhaps.
Of course.
So maybe it will work on them.
And yeah, and actually,
not on me, but not because I don't like. I said in the chat, I said Airplane. I think I watched it like 10 times when I was a kid, and it worked every time.
I was going to say Airplane was the big one that this sort of owes a debt to as well with Leslie Nielsen. Yeah.
But it was when I was a kid, and actually recently, I rewatched it. I think with one of my niece, I think, and my sister, whatever, and she was laughing surprisingly at Airplane.
Yeah,
but I wasn't.
No, do you know what? I wonder if as we get older as well, we get a bit more serious, and the world seems more serious, and there's a real daftness and silliness to this. And if you're not in the right mood, I will actually say, Lorne Balfe, is it, who's a brilliant composer, does a fantastic job here, and has done I think he's done the Mission Impossible films and stuff. And there's a scene which I won't ruin, but kind of spoof something in one of the Mission Impossible movies, which is very, very funny, and it drives the plot forward actually in that point. But actually the score is almost too much, because I think it works in the opening, but sometimes when you're in an environment when you want to laugh at stuff, the score feels like it's getting in the way. Sometimes the silence is the thing that makes people laugh. And there's one moment which is deliberately meant to be just a moment of sort of social awkwardness. And that always gets a really big laugh in the cinema. And it's interesting because it's not a line. It's actually the absence of a line. So you think something's going to be said and nothing is said. And the audience will laugh because of the void of nobody saying anything. So yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of the originals, it's got some little callbacks and stuff. When I rewatched the first one, I was like, they've actually nicked a couple of jokes or done, and that is sort of annoying. But I've got to say, there's a lot that they haven't. I don't want to ruin any of the jokes. There's a bit where someone goes to use a security camera thing, and you go, "Oh, that's a very modern joke." You know, there's a recurring joke involving coffee that wouldn't have really worked years ago as well. So there's a lot of modern stuff in there. And I think those things, there is one moment where you just see a stuffed beaver, and it's not actually a joke, but that seems to be a callback to that. So that's not even throwing that in. That's just a little Easter egg. But Liam Neeson sort of said he's not interested in doing another one. Obviously, he seems to be in a relationship with Pamela Anderson, which is very nice. And maybe they're a little bit anxious about working together again. I think there's room for a second one. And it would be really nice if Priscilla Presley would come back. It's odd because there's only 7 years between him and her and Liam Neeson. So it sort of might not work. But it would be fun to see her with Pamela Anderson maybe as the mother-in-law. There's maybe something in that. And maybe if she's enjoyed watching the film, because she's in this but not much, maybe she'd be willing to come back. But yeah, I thought it was fun. There's something else that I'd love to say, but I just don't want to ruin it as well. But yeah, The Naked Gun.
Yeah, I guess a bit of nostalgia, but then for new audience as well. But I think these quick, fast, heavy gags work well on the cinema, where it's just, if one comes along, you don't get the first one.
Sorry, the one thing I was going to say actually, Richard, is so you said you were watching it with your niece, like the original, or
the Airplane he was watching with his
Airplane.
And actually, maybe because there aren't many of these types of comedy now, there is an audience for it, but they just don't know because they're young and they kind of like this kind of stuff. So it might get young people going to watch it. Who knows?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't really get those big cinema comedy, those we used to. Let's say you had the Jim Carrey version or the Austin Powers, but we don't. I think we haven't really done them, so it's a good callback that it's been reintroduced. But I think TV movies, or TV situation comedies, which are popular, tend to be situational, as you say. But for the big screen, those big broad gags and fast and thick, I guess I think it might do okay, ish. So maybe to warrant a sequel. Who knows? Well, speaking of comedy, well, another return of an original or sequel as such is Happy Gilmore 2. I think it's just got released on Netflix, though, but this is Adam Sandler returning in the title role. I think golfing kind of comedy. Andrew, you saw this. Was it as good as the first one, Werewolf the Wait, for this?
Uh, uh, I don't know. I mean, I kind of mixed with the first one. I mean, it wasn't like great, but I did like some things from the '96 film. This time around, I feel like it just kind of playing upon the whole legacy and the whole thing of like, oh, okay, let's bring back these characters or this character, and I think there's only so many people that could really bring back because I think some of them have passed away in real life. That's real life. That's it's the context, and it kind of gives you kind of like a can you really laugh if you think like, oh, all these people in real life passed away, and just to give you an idea of what this film is about. Basically, he had in the first film he becomes a successful golfer, but still has like a really bad attitude, because he wants to be a hockey player, but can't really skate well. So in this film, during just the setup early on in the film, he's become a successful golfer, but then something happens. I don't know how much you know in terms of the marketing, but something happens and things take a turn for him, and he kind of goes downhill, and then he stops being a golfer, and then he struggles to get by, and he has a family, some sons who are kind of like he was in terms of his attitude, and a daughter. And his daughter in the film is played by his younger daughter from real life. And she wants to go to dance school. And she wants to go to dance school, I guess, in Paris, which isn't exactly cheap. And so he decides to go back and do the golfing again so he can kind of make some money so he can send his daughter to go to this dance school. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really... I don't know. It was kind of, there are some parts that were kind of funny where they kind of poke fun of some of this like new trend to do things more in an online kind of setting. And like this, I guess, villain in this one is kind of this young techie type who wants to do things for the sport of golf, but do it in a way that's not like traditional. And so it has the whole irony of like Happy Gilmore of all people trying to speak on behalf of tradition and do things the traditional way. And then you have Shooter McGavin, I guess Christopher McDonald, the actor, who comes back and becomes significant to the story. At the same time, Happy has had a drinking problem, so he tries to go clean, go straight. And one of the more confusing moments for me, he goes to this AA meeting, and there's another person there, and this other person is played by his other daughter, and I was like confused. I was like, why is his daughter in the movie in this AA meeting? And then I realized, oh, it's his other daughter from real life who's in the AA meeting. So, and just so you're keeping track, his real life wife has a cameo in the movie as a dance instructor. It's Jackie Sandler. So, yeah, I mean, there's some parts that I found kind of funny, making fun of some of the new trends, but I kind of felt like, I don't know if this is necessarily a sequel that needed to be made.
Okay.
And if you were going to do it, why not just release it in cinemas?
Yeah, sure.
Because, cinemas could use the business, and
Yeah.
he likes to do stuff in Netflix now. Adam Sandler, he doesn't really want to do cinemas. He's been doing stuff in Netflix for a number of years now. So even before the
I'm guessing
pandemic.
the original was in cinema, so would this have worked again?
Like,
I know it was a bit of a time gap, but could it have worked in cinemas?
I think it might have. There's been a big audience for it. I know I don't want to go on the whole thing about it because of, this thing is on Netflix. Why couldn't it have been in cinemas? I kind of felt this last year with Beverly Hills Cop 4.
Sure.
I wonder if that could have been in cinemas. And then the same thing with another Netflix phenomenon that you were talking about online, animated film that could have been in cinemas and sort of will be briefly. So, I kind of wonder, especially because of the audience may not do the streaming thing. They could only do in cinemas. So why not release it in cinemas? So
Saving rate, it's a bit of a quite some strategic distribution models going on, I think. Anyway, quite a spread of titles this year. So, thanks to Richard, Andrew, and James, and for you, listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this film and TV review.com episode. Catch the latest film and TV reviews, together with regular episode content from the world of film and TV every week. See you soon. Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today.